If you ever want a blueprint for how not to live your life, watch a few horror movies. You're just about guaranteed to witness a few folks make some of the least good choices possible. From heading to the basement instead of out the back door, to consistently bullying the kid who will guaranteed come back in 10 years and liberate your guts from your body, there is no limit to the ill-advised decisions that can be made. So we are going to count down the top 5 worst decisions made in horror movies. Let's get to it. Coming in at number 5, we've got trusting Joseph from Creep. The whole premise of Creep kind of relies on not knowing whether Joseph is a lunatic or not, and this lack of certainty absolutely adds to the creepy feel and the legitimacy of the decisions Aaron makes. Videographer Aaron heads out to the middle of nowhere to film a client for a day for a surprising amount of money. Good stuff. When he shows up, he meets Joseph, who claims that he's dying. Joseph wants to make a movie about himself for his unborn child, a memoir of sorts to connect with his kid. Seems sad, maybe a little unhinged, but ultimately reasonable enough. However, over the course of the day, Aaron and Joseph learn a lot about each other, and it's not all good. Aaron is understandably freaked out when Joseph insists that he stays overnight, and this fear increases as he learns that Joseph isn't who he says he is. After witnessing a terrifying display of wolf-like violence and hearing from Joseph's sister that he needs to get out of there, Aaron does just that. He gets out. Which is a good call too, as Joseph proves that he's got a few screws loose. Taking the job in the first place wasn't a bad call, because he made some money and dealt with a weird client, you know, that's just the price of business, I guess. However, Aaron makes a bad decision in trusting Joseph again after all this happens. See, Joseph didn't want to let Aaron just walk away, he wanted a friend. Badly. So he begins stalking Aaron, filming him in his sleep, breaking into his house, sending him weird gifts and DVDs. Aaron wants nothing to do with him at this point, but one of the videos Joseph sends him gets through. Joseph apologizes for being a bona fide weirdo and claims that he's just lonely and unable to make friends like a regular person. Aaron feels bad for him and decides to go and speak with Joseph one more time. You know, after all of the overly attached psycho stuff. He had an out and he didn't take it. Bad call. Aaron sets up a video camera as backup in case Joseph does anything, which doesn't end up helping him at all. While waiting for the lonely lunatic to show up, Aaron lets his guard down. Joseph sneaks up behind him with an axe, flourishes the weapon over his head, and brings it down hard on Aaron's skull. Never trust a creep. Hey guys, if you're liking the video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us out with the algorithm. On with the video. Coming in at number 4, taking a stranger's travel advice from Hostel. Dudes in the early 2000s were built different. You ever revisited any 2000s era movies lately? People walked, talked, and straight up acted different. Everyone was way too extra, always looking for some skin, always trying to prove that they were straighter than each other. Weird era. Dangerous era. And nowhere is this more apparent than in the travels of the trio of pals in Hostel. After a night of partying hard and visiting every possible brothel, Paxton, Josh, and Oli end up taking refuge in a dude named Alexi's apartment. Even after partaking in all these sinful Amsterdam pleasures possible, the three are convinced that continuing along their predetermined path to Barcelona is actually a bad call. Instead, they decide to take Alexi's advice and travel to the middle of nowhere by train to bang some chicks at a lesser known hotel. You know, forget your well-laid plans, your interesting activities, go to this small town full of criminal children and sex tourists. It sounds like fun, right? The trio, convinced by this stranger with a camera full of pornographic images, hop on the next train and find themselves in a hostel full of beautiful women. Way to go, team, but now what? I guess just go to the same bar every day. Turns out boredom isn't the only killer though. Yep, Alexi and the bodacious babes are actually on contract with another local business. A business that sells experiences instead of products. People come from far and wide to torture young folks kidnapped from the local hostel. Who's gonna find out anyway? It's full of idiots that take strangers' words on where to find the best and impulsively take the last train to nowhere. The poor suckers never had a chance. Coming in at number 3, being nice from friend request. It's always fun when a movie doesn't really know the message it's trying to send. Friend Request is one of those beware social media movies, but doesn't really explain why. Like, usually this kind of movie goes for like the don't bully the nerd or the nerd will come back with a vengeance kind of lesson, but in Friend Request, we get none of that. In fact, our main character is nothing but nice to the internet witch and still ends up in a horrifying situation. Laura, our popular protagonist, receives a friend request from the local recluse, Marina. Seeing that she's got no friends, she accepts and hangs out with her a couple times. In doing so, Laura notices a bunch of red flags, but is still polite and kind to Marina, you know, as you should be to people that are having a tough go. But here's the thing, you should never be nice to anyone you don't know. That's just the lesson here. Doing so will get you killed. In choosing to be friendly, Laura dooms herself and all of her friends to painful deaths via internet magic. Like, after being incredibly understanding and lovely towards Marina, Laura goes out for her birthday with all her close friends. Marina sees someone post about it and decides that this is like a declaration of war against her. Then, using her dark, cursed internet powers, she curses Laura and all of her loved ones, you know, because for one moment she wasn't focusing all of her attention on Marina, after being nice in literally every other interaction they had. Sucks, I guess. So remember kids, if you're nice to someone who doesn't have any friends, they will ensure that you end up just like them. Alone, wearing dark hoodies, and cursed to ruin more people's lives via internet witchcraft. Coming in at number 2, we've got making up a dead friend from Host. Speaking of paranormal activity via the internet, man, all these pals wanted to do was have a little spooky quarantine fun, but it's too bad that Gemma had to go and ruin it for everyone. Come on, Gemma. A group of friends decides to partake in an e-seance led by an experienced medium. As long as they follow all the rules, everything should be alright. They get started but are soon plagued by connection issues. Classic Zoom. This wouldn't be too rough, but Gemma decides to have a little fun with it. She pretends to have made contact with a friend who committed suicide, Jack. Everyone believes her, including the medium, but it turns out that she made him up. This is really bad news though, because apparently doing so allows the demon to take up the mantle of this so-called Jack and then cause whatever problems it likes in the real world. To make matters even worse, the medium fails to let them know how to effectively end the seance in time, meaning that Jack can stick around for as long as he wants. Uh-oh. Thus begins a horrific chain of events with Jack jumping through the World Wide Web to brutally murder each participant, one by one. He smashes faces into desks, drops people from great heights, and tosses chairs around with abandon. This internet demon is brutal. So thanks, Gemma. Your little joke just cost everyone their lives. Don't fuck around, folks. And coming in at number 1, we've got Dr. Sartain's study from Halloween. Why would you ever let a serial killer loose? Well, for science, of course. That all makes it worthwhile, right? Well, not really, as we learned from Dr. Sartain's folly. This sorry excuse for a Loomis replacement was Michael Myers' second psychologist. He got a little too close to his subject though and developed a deep obsession with the enigmatic killer. For most of the movie, Dr. Sartain seems like he's on our side, trying to figure out what fuels Michael in order to bring him back into captivity. But in actuality, he's doing everything he can to keep Michael out in the streets, murdering folks. He wants to know exactly why the killer acts the way he does and decides that letting the spree continue is the best way to get raw data. Dr. Sartain even goes as far as faking Michael's death and stabbing Officer Frank Hawkins to death with a hidden blade to keep the dream alive. Of course, this ends with the good doctor's death at the hands of Myers himself. Now, who could have seen that coming? If only we could have stopped these doofuses from making their doofus decisions. I suppose that's the constant watcher's burden to carry, always seeing dumb stuff and being helpless to prevent it. It is fun to see idiots get demolished from time to time though. So, what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my picks? What's the worst decision you've ever witnessed on the big screen? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more persnickety ones from the Top 5 SCP Foundation Hidden Secrets Part 2. Hazel Thrift says the Foundation have all that money from an SCP which disguises themselves as money and never runs out. That is quite the diabolical money-making scheme. Now how do I access it? Heather Schmidt says love Keegan, didn't know the SCP Foundation had any secrets. More SCP videos please. The Foundation is all secrets. It's secrets all the way down. Secrets inside of other secrets on top of other secrets. Crow at the SOL says the best kept SCP Foundation secret is the executive bathroom. It's extremely roomy and doesn't smell like pee. Hey, who told you about that? Now we're gonna have to change the passcode again to keep the plebs out. Neo says if these things are hush hush, then how is Keegan privy to its secrets? Is Keegan a Foundation whistleblower or a Foundation mole? I'm just anomalously good at research. Probably shouldn't say that aloud. And Andrew Rogers says, but that's life. Lie invented for everyone. And we're living in it. Have fun. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm gonna toboggan down some moguls. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hold on, because I forgot to do the thing. I always forget. And that's all the time we have for today. Videographer Aaron heads out to the middle of nowhere to film for a Videographer Aaron heads out to the middle of nowhere to film a client for a day. Why can't I say this sentence? Up a dead friend from host. Host. A little bit of chicken. Ha ha ha.